Growing up, my home was very shame-based, very judgmental. Don't know if you relate to that. It's not uncommon. The thing about growing up in a house like that is there's no space for introspection. And it's quite easy to understand if, for example, you made a mistake and instead of me getting curious or creating a safe space where you could open up, I was to come at you with, "What the hell is wrong with you? What's wrong with you, Jacqueline?" That's what I would get. There was never any curiosity. There was never any space where I could be vulnerable enough to open up, or God forbid, to actually be heard. So, I then became a product of my environment. And when you come from an environment like that, then you become that way yourself, right? Because when there's no safe space for you to open up in childhood, then there's no safe space for you to open up as an adult, right? Even in your own company. So all that does is it creates adults that project. It's like this constant projection. What's wrong with other people? What's wrong with people? Why do people keep treating me this way? That's kind of a question that goes through my head constantly throughout the day, right? But instead of being that way, it's like I'm trying to soften it. Trying to soften it a little bit. So when it comes in, it's like, instead of what's wrong with them, just get curious. Get curious. What made them act that way? I wonder what's going on in their head, So the thing about it is, it's like a lot of people grow up in homes like that, and then they turn to spirituality or psychology for help, but it's full of people that grew up in the same environment as me, right? So then they all turn into like pseudo-psychologists, Everybody's a fucking psychologist on YouTube nowadays. It's all this pop psychology, and got to ask yourself, like, is that really helping? I know it helps, right, to some extent, to understand other people, but after a certain point, it's like, is that your recovery? Really? Where you're out there, like, judging other people? It's too harsh. It doesn't feel right to me. It feels a bit too critical. So that's it. That's my thoughts. And that's what I'm gonna do. Instead of being so hard, I'm going to try and be curious. I'm going to try and understand people. And I'm going to try and listen. Because that's what we need. We need safe spaces where people can open up, where there's no blame or shame or judgment. Because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work.